everyone. This is It Takes Two. My name is Moira, the soprano who is never cast in any ingenue roles.
And my name is Amanda, the mezzo-soprano who always sings alto in choirs.
And welcome back again to episode 2 of It Takes Two. Today's episode is called What a Concept.
Ooh.
And before we get started, let us restate our theses for you. So, Amanda, do you want to go first with your thesis to remind the audience?
So, my thesis has been a bit revised since last episode and is currently as follows. Movie musicals made Broadway and just basically musical theater more accessible to the general public all over the U.S. more than any live show could have ever done.
And my thesis is talking about the variety of Sondheim shows. So last week we discussed a Golden Age musical that he wrote, and today we are going to discuss a different kind of musical and a different kind of era.
Ooh.
So I'm feeling very excited today. I don't know about you. For the audience, I have been cast in a musical. I can't tell you what, and I can't tell you what role because that is confidential for now.
Ooh.
I'm not allowed to say until
The cast
this has been released. The hardest part about it. So, who should go first for Act 1 today?
How about you go first? Let's make this a thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So, today we are going to be talking about Stephen Sondheim's very successful award-winning musical Company.
Ooh,
Which,
Company!
If y'all didn't know, Company is a concept musical.
A concept musical.
Which we have...
What a concept!
What a concept! That is exactly why it is called What a Concept today. Side note, this is something I wanted to tell you and Catherine in class the other day. There's a trio song in Company called You Could Drive a Person Crazy, and it fits all three of our voice types.
We need to do it!
So we need to do it and act in the song so bad.
Yes!
It would be so good.
Oh.
I can play it for you later. It's a really good song.
Let's make it happen.
Okay, so first we are going to discuss what is a concept musical. So, typically a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, neatly tied together with a plot, right? Or at least it has a linear recounting of events. The sets may be lush and the costumes sublime, but the principal purpose of these theatrical displays is to tell a story. Now, concept musicals do not necessarily tell a story, and they do not always follow a linear progression from beginning to end. Their purpose is to explore a theme and or convey a message. Such shows emerged as a genre part in the 1960s, a time of great social upheaval in the U.S. Yeah, so much happening there. Sorry, I had to take a sip of tea real quick.
Come on, tea.
Audiences were growing tired of the ever more formulaic fare offered up by the likes of Rodgers and Hammerstein, one of the preeminent musical theater writing teams of Broadway's Golden Age. Likewise, Lerner and Lowe made a name for themselves by setting stories to music, generally with the same topics and the same happy, feel-good mood. To say that these stories did not mirror the social climate at the time would be a gross understatement. As a result of seemingly repetitive storylines, theater attendance went on a slow decline, and it wasn't until 1961, when the Fantastics debuted off-Broadway, that interest in such theatrical performance was renewed.
People were just boring old white men watching these shows.
Exactly. Not to hate on any of those musicals. Well, I can hate on some of those musicals. But I'm looking at you, the music man. So awful.
Oh, dear.
Those shows did not narrate a story as much as they presented a series of anecdotes strung together, bringing a new flavor to the musical theater stage, which is how do I say this? That's tying together the concept musical part. Okay.
The theme?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about Company. Phone rings, door chimes, in comes Company. Have you seen that? Have you seen it yet?
Yes, I saw part of it.
Did you watch the Neil Patrick Harris version?
Yes. Because that was the one that was linked, so I watched it.
So good. I love him. So Company is a 1970 musical comedy with music and lyrics by none other than Stephen Sondheim and the book by George Firth. The original production was nominated for a record-setting 14 Tony Awards and won 6.
Nice.
So I'm pretty sure that's just as much or more. Wait, no, it's just as much or maybe a bit less than what Hamilton got. Hamilton got a lot.
Yes.
This musical was originally titled Threes. Its story revolves around Robert, a single man unable to fully commit to a steady relationship, let alone marriage. The 5 married couples who are his best friends and his 3 girlfriends. That's who the story follows. Unlike most book musicals, which follow a clearly delineated, I don't know what that word is, delineated plot, Company is a concept musical composed of short vignettes presented in no particular chronological order linked by a celebration for Robert's birthday. Now, when I first watched this, I had no idea they were just, random vignettes. I actually thought that there was a plot going on, but that probably must have meant I wasn't paying attention that much.
Yeah. Well, I listened to the original cast recording album on Spotify last year, and I was like, don't know what went on, but I think it was fun.
Of course.
Yeah. Just vignettes.
Exactly. So, let's see. Company was among the first musicals to deal with adult themes and relationships, as Sondheim puts it. Broadway theater has been for many years supported by upper middle class people with upper middle class problems. These people really want to escape that world when they go to the theater, and then here we are with Company talking about how we're going to bring it back in their faces. In his first 6 collaborations with Sondheim, director Harold Prince, rest in peace, Hal Prince, had the bright idea of turning a collection of one-act plays about marriage written by George Firth in the late 60s into a musical. Each play included an outsider character, and Sondheim realized that these observers could be merged into one main character. I can't talk today. That sucks. Manhattan man about town, Robert, who is surrounded by married friends but is hesitant to get hitched himself. Prince cast Broadway vet turned Disney star Dean Jones from The Love Bug as Bobby, and Elaine Stritch was cast as Bobby's. This is another word I don't know. Acerbic? Acerbic?
I think so. I think so.
Acerbic, hard-drinking older pal Joanne. Firth actually based Joanne on Stritch before she was even cast. I would love for a character to be based on me.
Yeah. Wow, a dream.
It's like you would just actually be watching yourself on stage.
I feel like that would be weird.
It would be weird, but if that's so flattering.
It is flattering.
Then you might be able to see this is the worst side of myself that they're portraying here. So
uncomfy.
Prince then wooed the hot young choreographer Michael Bennett by hiring Bennett's muse and future wife Donna McKechnie as Bobby's ex-girlfriend Kathy. Designer Boris Aronson created a chrome and plexiglass set that reflected what Sondheim called the central theme of the evening, the challenge of maintaining relationships in a society becoming increasingly depersonalized, as he wrote in his book Finishing the Hat. From its tryout in Boston to opening night at Broadway's Alvin, now Neil Simon Theater, on April 26th, 1970, we are nearing its anniversary of its opening. Company invited conversation by rejecting the rules of classic mid-century musicals, focusing more on themes than plot. The show takes place not over a period of time, but in an instant in Robert's mind, Sondheim also wrote in Finishing the Hat. Rather than advancing the plot, since there wasn't one, the songs provided subtext. So Sorry, Grateful, Little Things You Do Together, Barcelona, was all commentary on the characters' lives or functioned as freestanding scenes. Bobby's original 11 o'clock number, which was called Happily Ever After, which Prince called, according to the book, Sondheim and Co., by Craig Zadan, the bitterest, most unhappy song ever written.
No.
That's kind of sad. This was scrapped during the Boston run, and it was replaced by the more hopeful anthem Being Alive, where Bobby realizes that he truly does want companionship and somebody To Crowd Me With Love. I love that song. It's so great.
I'd love to see it.
That's what you need to finish it. It's great. It's literally the last song in the show.
Oh yeah, I have listened to it. I've heard it. I just haven't.
I'm glad you've heard it.
You're like very good.
Very good. I'm you get points for that.
Good child. You get.
Oceans of ink have been spilled trying to get inside the head of company's elusive lead character, Bobby. One of the problems was that Bobby had to be the observer, Hal Prince noted in Sondheim & Co. Boyd Gaines headlined a 1995 revival which further developed the character of Bobby by adding the song Marry Me a Little to the end of Act 1, a song he sings after floating the idea of marriage to an ex-girlfriend, which Sondheim characterized as an internal monologue of despair and self-deceptive determination. Company is one of the best examples of a concept musical, and two of its creators are also known for their slew of concept shows, composer Stephen Sondheim and the late director Hal Prince. With the book by George Firth, Company has a very fragmented plot, framed only loosely by Bobby's 35th birthday. The show focuses on the psychology and sociocultural attitudes of the characters within, as they and Bobby in particular wrestle with their complex and complicated romantic relationships. And all this information I got from Broadway.com, superprof.com, and companymusicaluci.wordpress.com.
Woohoo!
So now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be taking a brief intermission so you can stretch your legs, and we'll be back for Act 2 in just a moment.
How's your tea, Moira?
It's really good.
Is it actually?
Yes. It's very minty.
Isn't it? I love a good green tea.
It's really great. It's my favorite kind of tea.
Really?
Yeah.
Peppermint or just like mint in general?
Well, green tea.
So neither.
Any green tea is fine.
See, my mom doesn't really like green tea. What are your feelings about matcha?
It tastes like grass.
Yeah. Well, I feel that. Well, hope that was a lovely break for you. We're gonna come back into Act 2. Get a lovely intermission. And you had time to go to the bathroom if you needed. We gave you none, so I hope you paused it.
Yeah.
So welcome to the second section of our podcast. My name is Amanda, or as my friends call me, Manda. And we're going to be talking about movie musicals.
Woo!
And my thesis, essentially, for this podcast has turned into that movie musicals have made Broadway and just musical theater in general a lot more accessible to the general public in America than any live show could ever have done. So today we're going to be talking about Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, the original TV broadcast.
Yes.
Why they decided that was a good idea, why it was a good idea, and how successful it was, and how far-reaching it was.
It's not if it was a good idea, it was a good idea.
It was, and why it was a good idea. Yeah. So, a little bit of background. Rodgers and Hammerstein, Richard Rodgers, who wrote music, and Oscar Hammerstein II, who wrote book and lyrics for shows. Their film of Oklahoma had been released in 1955, so 2 years before this Cinderella broadcast. It was pretty successful, pretty high to high critical acclaim and public excitement. And there's a review on the New York Times of that event, and how much they really liked the film and all of the kind of lead up into that film. Because at that time, TV musicals were mostly film adaptations of stage productions. So Oklahoma was a film adaptation of the stage production. Pretty cut and dry of that. So NBC approached Rodgers and Hammerstein and asked if they would, quote, do something that had never been done before, write an original musical, a family musical, expressly for television, end quote, and that's from Playbill. And they were like, sure, and, but they were a little uncertain about some of the the network's restrictions and requirements. And so an old friend of Rodgers and Hammerstein's was working at CBS, and they offered Rodgers and Hammerstein a chance to write a television spectacular starring Julie Andrews, and they were like, "Oh, of course."
Yes, we
it's
must
so funny
have
because
her.
NBC and CBS were like the competitors at that time, and they like lost Rodgers and Hammerstein to CBS, which I find so funny. So, starring Julie Andrews. Let's go over some of the queen herself.
Literally.
I love
the queen
her.
of Genovia, if any of y'all have seen The Princess Diaries, she actually is a queen.
Actually. So let's go over some of the numbers. So this broadcast, Cinderella, in 1957, was broadcast March 31st, 1957. 64 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. It was mostly in black and white. There were some color receivers, but most people saw it in black and white. So, according to Variety, 107 million people watched this broadcast.
Wow.
That night. So that's about 24.2 million households and about 4.43 viewers per set.
Wow.
So that was more than 60% of the U.S. households at the time. Over half.
That's insane.
You know, 3/5 of the people. So you either watched it or knew somebody who watched it. Like, in the U.S. And according to the Hollywood Reporter, this audience of 107 million was, for a single network event, the largest in U.S. history until Super Bowl 45 in 2011.
I don't even watch the Super Bowl, but I'm glad theater has, has been made to have more viewers than
for the
football.
single network event was the most until Super Bowl XLV. I had to look up what that was.
Yeah, I haven't.
45.
You know, I don't recall learning Roman numerals, but literally only a couple times in grade school.
I think we only got to like 100, and then I was like, meh.
I don't even think we got that far.
So, Richard Rodgers later said that a Broadway run of Cinderella could only have equaled its initial TV audience if it played 8 sold-out performances a week, every week, for 140 years.
What?
Put that in perspective. Phantom of the Opera, the longest-running show in Broadway, has been running for 33 years.
That's a long time. That was literally when my parents, 84? Is that when it opened?
It was Phantom?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, probably.
It's been around since my parents were children, that's all I know.
Yeah. So, and Phantom on Broadway specifically has played to over 18.5 million people, which is like nothing compared to 107 million.
Exactly.
Like, worldwide, Phantom has played to what they say over 140 million in 35 countries.
35 countries.
35 countries, 140
I don't know
million.
any other musical that could have done that.
Well, yes. Well, Phantom. And all that information is from Playbill and the Phantom website. So it begs the question, how the heck did this all happen? How did they get so many viewers?
That's
how did they
a
get
good
the word
question.
out? So, and I'm quoting from Playbill, they said, taking no chances, the network, CBS, rolled out the largest PR and marketing campaign America had ever seen, ensuring that every newspaper, magazine, radio, and TV outlet in the country knew about Cinderella.
Literally just...
This was serious. Okay, and the kicker, it was sponsored by Pepsi Cola. It was sponsored by Shulton, who makes Old Spice.
Oh!
And they each had their own PR and marketing campaigns. Like Pepsi, also quoting from Playbill, in a final pre-broadcast flourish, Pepsi printed up 5 million comic books based on Cinderella and shipped them out with 6 packs of soda.
You know, I've always preferred Pepsi over Coke.
There you go. You get your Pepsi, your 6-pack of Pepsi, and a comic book.
It's like a prize in your box of cereal.
It's like a prize, but it's also an advertisement.
Yeah.
I mean,
they really thought that through.
Respect. Am I right? Respect. And so also, Rodgers and Hammerstein appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show a week before the broadcast.
I love that show.
And they performed a little version of Do I Love You Because You're Beautiful.
They did?
They did.
That's so cute.
They conducted the orchestra and then said the words along with it. But it was still beautiful. And, I mean, let's take a moment to appreciate the Ed Sullivan Show.
I love the Ed Sullivan
Anybody
Show.
who is anybody, or was just, like, not living under a rock during that time, knew what the Ed Sullivan Show was.
Yeah, you know?
And that's really brought theater to the general audiences. And, like we talked about in our musical theater class, like, the Ed Sullivan Show was, like, the most amazing thing. In Bye Bye Birdie, they sing about being on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah, they literally do.
Like, anyways. And then Julie Andrews recorded a special 6-track disc, and they sent it out to lots of TV and radio people. And the cast recorded a full album, which was released April 1st, the morning right after the broadcast. In stores. So, like, the marketing on this was just
like
so good.
Like an NBC Live musical. They literally do the same thing.
Yeah, it was serious. So overall, kind of a conclusion. I got distracted by a car outside. This show was a much more widespread and far-reaching show than anything on Broadway ever has been. The number of people that saw this. So, of course, Broadway shows usually can't afford such a lavish PR and marketing campaign, but, I mean, Cinderella did something right and reached those people in a way that live shows never could have.
They sure did.
So that's all I have for today.
So, let us end with today's sponsor. Today's show is sponsored by Mrs. Lovett's Meat Pie Shop. I hear their pies are delicious. Question mark. Definitely made with all natural animal ingredients. Nothing unusual. Definitely nothing weird going on there. So stop by Mrs. Lovett's Pie Shop. Tell them Moira and Amanda sent you. And we will see all of you lovely people in next week's episode of It Takes Two.
Thank you all for listening.